Welcome to our second episode of Green Acres. I'm Ed Hand, and this is Brad Chandler, and we're going to be talking about the Red Sox minor league system for the second time. It's been about a month since we did it initially. Normally, we have our friend Tim here for it, but he is, I think, a legal child, so he's in school or something, so we can't. He couldn't be here for this today.
He just started a new job.
Oh, that's what it is? Okay. So it's
Yeah.
like not legal child. He's legally an adult, but he's working. So
Well,
Tim will be back.
So he was in school. He's out of school right now for the summer, and he's got a summer job. That's what I've taken away from it.
That honestly, once I hit like 25, anybody like younger than that all seemed like they're in high school to me, and I know that that's inaccurate. But
It's a good.
it's
That's a
just
good
how it
take, dude.
feels.
I'm 38, so everybody that's younger than me is just like I think they're in high school or college or
Right?
doing
They're like
something with their
literal.
life.
Right, they're like literal children. But yeah, a lot has happened. Brad, did you know that there was a new MLB pipeline list that came out today?
I think I saw something. They mentioned is it Bavarian? I don't know how to spell this. Bello.
Brand Mayo, yes.
Yeah. So they scared the shit out of like everybody, saying that since he's no longer on the team or something like that, and everybody was like, "Wait a minute, what?" And then they were like, oh, the Sea Dogs are still on fire." That's what I saw. But no, I didn't see the MLB pipeline post. What did it say?
So there are four ranking changes. One, Jaron Durden no longer qualified. That one game that he had up in the majors, that was enough at bats for his career. If you include last year, that he's no longer considered a prospect by the standard they use. So he's off the list.
Oh,
But he was the
okay.
fourth guy on it. However, he was replaced by Bayo, who for the first time is on their top 100, debuting at number 84, which not a bad place to start. There are three others there. Nick York is 52nd. Tristan Cassis moved up to number 14, and then I believe the first one appearing in the top 10, I want to say since Rafi Devers or Andrew Benintendi, somebody from that group. Marcelo Mayer is number 10 in all of baseball. So
Yeah.
pretty good news for the Red Sox system, at least.
Yeah, it's nice to see that we have some top prospects on the top 100 of all MLB. Um, you know, right now, number one prospect is Adley Rutschman, and for the Orioles, and I'm super happy for him. He just made his debut the other day. But Marcelo Myers, making it in the top 10, really cool. Casas, number 14. How does that really work when I thought Casas was the number one prospect for the Red Sox, though. Did
You
that?
know, it's interesting because I think because there are some sites have one Cassis as number one, some sites have Mayer as number one. I think that some of it just has to do with Cassis's relative proximity to the majors, and some people will consider that to be more significant than the potential overall package. I
So,
mean,
so are they putting him at 14 because there's the potential of him being out by the end of the year?
I think that that's some of it. I think that part of why he's behind Mayer is because he's not a shortstop. He's a little bit more of a known commodity, so you can't really we sort of have an idea of what Cassis is going to be. Whereas I think in some ways with Meyer, he hasn't even had 100 at bats at Salem yet. So the
Right.
sky, and he's done very well in those at bats, but the sky really is the limit for him. Whereas Cassis, it looks very promising, but he's still only a first baseman. He's the highest first baseman on the list, but it's still
And
not as significant a position.
it's nice to see Nick York up there. He's ranked 52. Let's see, Brian Bayo, however you say his name,
Yeah.
84th. That's not bad. So I mean, we got four in the top 100, which is pretty good.
Oh, yeah. First pitcher we've had in forever there, too. I think Eddie Rodriguez was the last guy the Red Sox had that was a top 100 prospect, and he wasn't really developed by the Red Sox. He was an
Developed by
Orioles
the
product.
Orioles. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We got him with the Andrew Miller trade.
Yeah, and I guess, that's actually a pretty good place to start this episode, is just talking about the pitching, because that's been really impressive as far as Double A and as far as Triple A goes. The first part of that being Bello, who is on the top 100 list now. He also got promoted to Triple A.
Right. Yeah. That was kind of, it wasn't weird. It was nice to see, but it was like, wow, that was fast, like kind of fast.
Yeah, and I think some of it feels a little faster because it's just May now, and usually they wait a little more into the season. But something that they've been pretty consistent with is after about 100 innings for the starters, that's when they start considering moving them up. And he's gotten about 100 innings almost to the dot at Double A when they brought him up, and that's why somebody like Brandon Walter, who's gotten off to just as hot of a start, someone like Chris Murphy, who's been very good also. They haven't gotten promoted quite yet.
You've been pretty high on Murphy.
Yeah.
We'll end up talking about him. I want to talk about Groom at some point because I went to a game and saw him. But yeah, Bello, from what I've seen of him, like he pitched like 5 innings the other day, had 10 strikeouts, was topping out at 100, 101. Like,
yeah,
bro, what are we doing? Like, this is, even if he's not a starter, and this is someone we could bring up into, they could bring up to Boston. I know they need help in the bullpen. And typically that's how they do things, is when, you're a starter down in the minors, but you come up to the big boys, you're going to probably end up in the pen.
Yeah. I mean, his first call up is almost certainly, unless it's the one circumstance I could see him starting in the majors before he gets there and then like being a reliever, would be if there is a spot start that's needed and it just happens to be his day in the rotation, because he is on the 40-man roster. You can move him up for that one day and then bring him back down. I think they would favor using somebody like Josh Winkowski or Connor Siebold, who's been up a little bit longer. But if it just happens to be that day one of those guys can't pitch, then you would see it. More realistically, I think as long as he continues to pitch well, and if there's a need in the bullpen, which I can almost guarantee you there will be, we'll probably be seeing his debut around August. His stuff plays for the pen. That's the thing. He's got that 100-mile-an-hour fastball, that slider. Right. He's got a changeup. So he's somebody that you could really see being used as a weapon if there's a playoff run.
Right. Not to talk too much about the Red Sox themselves, but my understanding is they're at the end of the month they're no longer going to be able to carry 13 pitchers, so they'll have to carry an extra. What's the word?
Position player.
Yes, position player. They'll have to use that. It'll have to be down to 12. That's my understanding. I mean,
no, you are correct in your understanding of it. That is accurate. So one of the pitchers is going to go down, and a hitter is going to come up. That is accurate.
Right. So, and supposedly, we have the Red Sox have a doubleheader this coming Saturday, and there's rumors that Josh Winkowski is going to end up making his debut for the Red Sox. Oh, give us a little bit of information. Here I am driving, but give us some information on this.
Oh man, yeah. So Winkowski, he was one of those guys that came over in the Andrew Benintendi trade. The big two were Franchy Cordero was the one that everybody recognized the name of. Said, "Oh, we traded Andrew Benintendi for Franchy Cordero," who we're not going to talk about that as much, but that trade's looking a little better.
He had a walk-off
grand slam.
Good for Franchy, dude. Yeah. You know what? Let's just go to a side talk real quick. Last year they DFA'd him. He decided to stay. Imagine that. Like, imagine the team saying, "No, you're not good enough to be on the team. We want you to stay down in AAA." He goes down there. He works on his craft. Now, I'm not saying he's hitting like Xander Bogaerts or Rafael Devers, but the dude is putting up way better bats. He's putting way better at bats than he did last year, and it's good to see. He had a triple. He had a walk-off grand slam. That walk-off grand slam, screw 2021 and what happened with him. I'm happy that he went down, he worked on his craft, and the strikeouts have gone down tremendously. He's getting better wood on the ball. He's getting better exit velocity off that bat. When you're not striking out, like Palmer said on one of our episodes, good things are going to happen when you're striking out less. So I'm happy for Franchi.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And he has so much raw power that him improving that contact rate even a little bit is going to do wonders for everything else. I mean, you saw how many just of these loud outs did he have this last series where he was just knocking the crap out of the ball just right at the first baseman or right at the second baseman.
He really was getting what we would call unlucky. But I'd rather him get the bat on the ball than striking out, because that means he worked on what he was doing.
Yeah, no, and you can see it. You can see it in his approach.
Right, he's not, like I said, he's straight. Like, let me take a peek real quick. I know his strikeout rate has gone down. I think it went down like 10%. But he had 51 strikeouts last year, right? He has 12 and 52 at bats.
It's still an amount of strikeouts, but he's being more of those. I would bet you money that more of those strikeouts are looking because he's being a lot more selective now than he was a year ago.
His on-base percentage is up. His OPS is through the roof compared to last year. His slugging is up. I mean, he went, we don't talk batting average, but on-base percentage last year was 237. This year so far, 305. Slugging last year, 260. This year, 404. OPS last year, 497. This year, 709. OPS plus 32 last year, 101 this year. So he's doing what he's supposed to. He's doing what we wanted him to do.
Yeah, and the need for a bat in this lineup, especially out of the first base position, he really has started to fill in what they need there while Casas continues developing at AAA. So I think, I've been very happy with what we've seen from him since he got called up a couple weeks ago. And, between that and Cora shaving the beard, I don't think that it's a coincidence that that the team's been playing so much better. But
let's get back to the farm.
Right. But on the farm, the other people that came in that trade, a few of them are in short season A right now. Not short season. They're at extended spring training right now. But the big piece, and in my opinion, the biggest piece in that trade was Josh Winkowski, who initially he came up with the Blue Jays, got sent over to the Mets in the Steven Matz trade. And then the Red Sox, it was kind of this weird three-way trade where the Red Sox initially acquired an outfield prospect named Cahill Lee and sent him to the Mets for Winkowski.
I remember that.
Yeah. It was kind of a little bit of a strange deal, but he was really the prize in it. And, went to AA last year, pitched pretty well, came up to AAA for the last 3 weeks along Ronaldo Hernandez and Tristan Casas with that brief little AAA cup of coffee. And he's been... the AAA rotation has quietly been very good, and he's a big part of that. Between Connor Siebold's really been pitching well, but Winkowski yesterday he had a good shot at being player of the week for the pitcher of the week for the International League, but then they kept him in one more inning and he gave up an additional 3 runs. He had gone through 6, he had struck out 9, walked 1 guy, and then he just kind of got hammered that last inning. But they don't need him to go 6 innings, 7 innings. They need him to get through a good 4 innings for them if he gets a spot start. And he's not somebody that has one pitch that's so much better than any other one. I think he hits about 98 on his fastball. If he's in a shorter stint, he might be able to dial that up a little more, but he's not, he's kind of a sum of all of his parts type pitcher that happens to have a good fastball and good control. I think he profiles as either, a 2-inning relief guy or a 4th starter. But, we'll see how he does on the bigger stage. Some guys manage to tick it up a little bit and they do better than you expect. I think it's really exciting getting to see him get a start. Let me just get up his AAA numbers right now because I think that paints a pretty good picture of where he's at right now.
313. 7 games. He's thrown 30, 31 and 2/3. He's got 34.
34 strikeouts to 6 walks. Whip of 0.85, which I believe is the best in the organization. For starters, at least, yeah, he has a better whip than Brayan Bello or Brandon Walter does right now. So, like, it all points to somebody who should be serviceable.
It does seem that he starts off a little slow. His first innings are a little, he's got a 2.57 ERA within the first inning in 7 games. He's got a 0 ERA in the second inning, a 3.18 ERA in the third inning. Sorry, and then when you get to the 6th inning, that's when he's tiring out. So it looks like his ERA is at a 4.50. He's given up 1 home run so far, but what is this? I'm trying to. I don't know what the fuck that means. But he definitely doesn't seem like a 6 to 7 inning guy. He seems more like a 4 or 5 inning guy.
Yeah, and he's somebody who could. I think he could end up being like a setup man type, because in the Arizona Fall League, when he was pitching there last year, he was hitting 99 on his fastball. They were using him as a reliever, and he had that kind of velocity. He's got a slider and a changeup. He apparently this spring started throwing a cutter, so we'll see if that how much that's really worked for him. But if adding more tools to the arsenal is never a bad thing, and that slider is actually not bad. It's a potential above average offering.
I know a
one that he misses bats with.
I know a right-handed pitcher he could replace for the Red Sox.
Which one?
It rhymes with yarn.
Hey, he got a save at the game I was at. He didn't look great getting that save, but he did get a save in a close game.
Don't want to talk about it.
So, speaking of games that we've been at, I was actually at 2 games this week. I got to see 2 Worcester games, and I know you've been at some Sea Dogs games. So I was thinking maybe we could talk a little bit about that. AAA Stadium there is beautiful. If you haven't gotten the chance to go there yet,
I did go one time last year. And it was during Danny Santana was making a rehab start, and I was so upset that he was making a rehab start. I think I was the only person booing somebody who was on our team. He immediately hit a ball right to second base. But yeah, it was nice until it started raining, and then the game got postponed.
It was raining so much last year there. It was like just about, I felt like half the games I was supposed to go to got delayed or just never rescheduled. It was so frustrating.
I had like 4 or 5 games last year that I was going to that got postponed because of rain. I went to a Red Sox game that I was supposed to go to with my nephew that ended up getting rained out. Then him and I went to we were going to a Mets game. It got rained out. Then we went 2 days later and they canceled the game like the minute we got off the exit, and I was so upset about that.
We need more retractable roofs, especially in the Northeast when it's like 40 degrees out when the season's starting.
It really feels like people are so against the retractable roof thing in MLB, especially on places like, say, Fenway. But this is a reason why we need something like this. It's like, okay, maybe not an entire, like, maybe like, I don't know. There definitely needs to be something, because people are driving like 2-3 hours away to watch a game, and then they get there, and then like they get like 3 innings in, and they're like, "Oh, your ticket's good for the next day." And it's like, I can't go to the next day. So I mean, I understand like people are like like no, the traditionalists and whatnot. They're just like, no, we don't want domes, we don't want retractable roofs, yada yada yada. But I mean,
yeah,
imagine a retractable roof in the summer at Fenway.
Honestly, for some days, like I was there Saturday, wouldn't have minded that. It was hot. I can't imagine being there like Sunday that game when it was like what 97 out. No
Yeah,
thanks. But
humid and whatnot.
I got to tell you about one performance I saw at Worcester. The
Yeah,
starter was Cutter Crawford making his debut for the Woo Sox, and he was scheduled to go 3 innings, and he actually ended up going 4 innings because he had only thrown like 25 pitches at that point.
wow.
He threw 4 no-hit innings, hit one batter, struck out 2. So all the contact was just like they were barely tapping it off of him. He
That's
just
good to
looked really
hear.
good. Yeah, he looked effective. He looked a lot more comfortable than we saw him in the majors, and part of
I
that,
don't
I'm
think
sure,
they were
they're growing
using him
pains.
properly. I don't think they were using him properly in
They were
Boston.
barely using him. Like
Yeah,
he
I
wasn't
mean,
really. Yeah,
he had like a 21 ERA last year. I understand ERAs. Ooh, why are we doing that? But it's still a stat.
yeah.
He had like a 20 something ERA last year. His ERA this year wasn't all that great for the short amount of time that they used him. He was basically being used as a mop up guy, and they didn't really give him the chance to show what he was able to do. Um, and then people just like wrote him off. It's like, no, no, thanks. You send him down.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because he was like, I remember that first Yankee series, he actually looked pretty okay for some of the games that he got into there. And then he had a couple of rough outings where it was like he wasn't getting any close calls. I think this was against Detroit. That game that like they ended up winning it 9-7, but they were up 9-1 at one point and like almost blew the lead. And he was just it just seemed like he was really struggling with his confidence, with his ability to throw strikes, and I can see that as kind of being why they ended up sending him down.
I do remember. I don't know if it was during the Detroit game, but I do remember that there was one game they left him in, and like he was giving up runs, and they were just like, "Nope, you're cleaning this up." And it's like, bro, you got to take him out. Like we need to take him out. Get somebody up. Like this is a confidence issue. This isn't like a you need to learn how to get out of this mess. It's like there. I don't know what game that was. It might have been Detroit, but I was just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, especially a pitcher like that hasn't really been in the big leagues for that long. I don't
He
think
only
the issue
went
is his
for like a
stuff.
cup of coffee.
He got one start a year ago, and then he made the team out of spring training. He narrowly beat out John Schreiber. He was one of the last guys there. And but you know what? Schreiber he's been great this year, but he wasn't that great last year. And sometimes these trips to the minors, they work with Paul Abbott, the pitching coach there. They figure stuff out, and then they come back and whole new man. Like we've seen that happen before. I think that's they didn't DFA Brazier, but they did option him to AAA, and you got to imagine he's going to be working with the pitching
I'm
coach
gonna
there.
I'm gonna go back and say something about Brazier, which I think I've said on the actual podcast. Is I honestly think that him getting hit in the head last year had something to do with his selection and pitching and whatnot. Because ever since he came back last year, he just hasn't looked good.
He had that run in September where they used him like 4 or 5 straight days, and he did okay there. But this year, it's been like the contact that's been being made off of him is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it.
That's possible. I mean, relievers, 1 inning appearances, every little thing matters. But yeah, I was really good seeing Crawford pitch like that. I got to see Zach Kelly, who is a reliever who could get a call up at some point this year. He's one of the better arms, consistently hitting around 95 on the fastball, dialed it back and hit 97. Also blew a 2-1 lead, he blew a 1-0 lead, and then they ended up coming back in the bottom of the ninth and had a walk-off Roberto Ramos 2-run homer, which was cool. It's always cool to be at a game like that, but they also kind of they coughed up the lead. They're pretty bad. The second game I was at, it was Thomas Pannone versus Davy Garcia, if you remember him, the Yankee prospect.
Oh yeah.
Garcia got just straight up. They just lit him up. They really. He was out of the game by like the third inning, and Pannone not really. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but he threw strikes. He got enough guy. He did the job, But I also got to see AJ Politi pitch, who was recently called up from AA to AAA, and he's another potential reliever. He's 25. Let me get his numbers up, what he was doing there. Because, yeah, here we go. He has a 2.20 ERA, struck out 24 batters over 16 innings, walked 4. So he's pitched pretty well this year. I don't know if he's somebody that's going to be like a true, like a closer potential or something like that, or a setup guy. But I do think that there's a big league pitcher in there, and it's kind of cool seeing these guys get to move up a level and adjust to the next step, so to speak. So those were really the highlights for me. The offense didn't really do a lot. Ryan Fitzgerald just smoked the ball off the wall, and then was, I think, laughing too hard, trying to get to second base and got thrown out there at one point. Jarren Duran, though, this was cool. I saw him leg out not one, but 2 doubles where it was just like a ball that just kind of got into the outfield. Oh, and he's so fast. Oh my God. Like, he's hitting the ball on the ground a lot more now, but like, not like these weak little choppers, but like, he's hitting it on the ground, and I think that's intentional, trying to get more speed. And
do you think that they pulled the Willie Mays Hayes thing on him? Like, every time we see you hit it into the air, you're gonna have to give me 20 push-ups.
Oh God! I mean, I don't think they're gonna say like, no, don't try to hit home runs, but I think they're kind of trying to get him to be a little more selective of what he tries to hit home runs on, because he was trying to be a power hitter last year, and it's not. He might have the capacity in him for 20 homers, but it's at the cost of everything else. You don't want.
I'd rather him just get on base. Get a single, steal second.
Exactly. It's like a fancy double. Yeah. So that was who I got to see in AAA. I hopefully will be back in a couple of weeks when they're in town again. But how was the AA game you went to?
So I went to a game. I believe it was not last Thursday, 2 Thursdays ago. I went, and it took me like 30 minutes to find a parking spot. I don't know how, it took me so long to find a parking spot for a AA game. But Jay Groom was pitching, and I was like, one of my buddies hit me up. He was like, "Hey, I got an extra ticket. Let me know if you want to go." And I'm like, okay. So he shot me over a ticket, and I got there in like the second or third inning, and Groom was shoving. And I believe he went like 6 innings, had like 6 or 7 strikeouts. He only gave up 2 runs. It was nice to see a prospect when you're like, we have some guys on that have been on the show where like you were like interested in. Like, we've had Cole Cottom on, we've had Nick Sogard on, and it's like, I know those guys. I've had them on the show. We've talked to them in person and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, all right, cool. But I feel like the 2 times that I went, Cole was on the bench.
I mean, he's a catcher, so that's going to happen. But though he does DH a decent amount, I wonder maybe he was like nursing an injury or something. He's not having a bad year. He's 10th in the organization on base percentage right now.
Well, he also so I went to the game on Thursday. They ended up losing that game in extras. I believe they lost it in the 10th inning. I believe Nails gave up the go-ahead run, which he wasn't Nails.
I was going to say that name seems like an ironic name for him.
Yeah,
if that's what happened.
But it was a good game. It's I don't usually go to a Hartford Yard Goats game for the Yard Goats. Like when I go to the game at Dunkin' Donuts Park in Hartford, I'll go just to go. But like when it comes to like the Sea Dogs are playing, I don't go just to go. Like, I'm going to see what the Sea Dogs are doing. Tyreek Reed, he's a lot bigger in person.
Yeah, he looks, at least just from the fight video that we saw, I didn't think he looked gigantic. I thought he looked like, reasonable sized. But
he looks like he can mess somebody up. And like, after like seeing him in person and then like knowing about that fight, I'm like, Yeah, dude, I wouldn't mess with him.
Yeah, why would you start a fight with that guy? Of all the people
He
you could start a fight with on that team, you could have gone after like David Hamilton or somebody a little smaller and quicker like that.
he had a misplay at first. I don't think it was really a misplay. If minor leagues had replay, you would have saw that he tagged the guy, but he was playing first. His foot came off the bag, but he did tag the runner, and the umpire called the runner safe because he didn't see the tag. And then the umpires got together and whatnot, and they were like, "Nope, he was safe." So it was what it was. It's what it is what it is.
Yeah.
Cool. The cool thing, I did go to see the Sea Dogs versus the Yard Goats the following Saturday, and that was when I got to actually meet Cole. I got to meet Nick. Nick was really cool. He was busy. He came over. He said, "Hey," I gave him one of our shirts, and he thanked me. And then he went and he was batting practice.
Yeah.
But Cole was taking grounders and he was taking reps at first, which I was like, why is he doing first? You know, what are they going to do? Put him out. So when I did talk to Nick for the quick, like 2 seconds that I got to, I asked him about the fact that they're having to play the outfield. And he's like, basically they're trying to, make him more, utilize him more. I mean, he's definitely better as an infielder, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The game I saw that Saturday, so I saw them on Thursday. He was playing center field. I mean, he wasn't bad, but you could tell he wasn't comfortable out there. But when he was playing at second base on the Saturday game, you could tell he was way more comfortable. He was making way better plays. His range was a lot better. He was reading the ball a lot better. So that was cool to like actually see that,
Yeah.
Cole, he came over. We talked for a little bit. And I got my first foul ball. Granted, it was during batting practice, but I did get a foul ball. And it was kind of funny because it was like 15 yards to my right, and one guy was running over to go get it, and he like ran right past it. And I was like, what happened? And like I just picked it up, and I was just like, I got it.
You know who hit it?
No, I have no idea who hit it, but it was somebody on the Sea Dogs. So I was talking to somebody else. It was funny because I was talking to a Yankees fan, and he said that he was a Sea Dogs fan, which
interesting
was kind of odd. I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, the Sea Dogs used to be the Marlins. Maybe there's a connection with that. I don't know.
I mean, that was like almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like this guy was like my age. But I mean, I think he said he was from the Maine area. But he goes to the Yard Goats all the time to go see the Yankees farm AA team play them. So, but it was nice. We talked for a little bit and whatnot. He said one of the main things he said is like, it's nice to be able to go to a game for like $20 with like my kid, Yeah. And I'm like, I agree that's, but back to Cole and whatnot. Awesome guy. Awesome dude. Nick was awesome. I'm glad I got to finally meet them. And super pumped to like keep paying attention to what that team is doing. It's unfortunate that they don't come around as often. Like they're not coming back until July.
Oh wow, yeah.
So
that's a bit. I'm going up to Portland for a game. I think in the end of July. I don't know who they're playing against though, but that's scheduled to do that. So I'm excited. AA baseball's great because that's where you really start to see the top guys kind of come into their own, and just the pitching for Portland's been so good between Bayo, Murphy, and
I love
even Groom.
So when I get to go to the games with like my friends and whatnot, I love it because they always ask me, and I'm like, I know just as much as you do about these guys, Like there's a couple dudes here that, like I know about Dave Hamilton, I know about Tyreek Reed, I know about Nick Sogard, I know about Jay Groom, I know about Cole Calhoun, Cottom, sorry. Um, it's just like maybe I do know more than you, but it's like just it's fun when people ask you about these things, and it's great because like the more that I'm getting interested in getting knowledge in the minors, the more people I'm around come up to me and they're like, "Hey, who do you think blah blah blah, or who do you think of this?" Like I had somebody earlier today ask me about the Marcelo Myers situation,
Oh
which
yeah, which
we need to
yeah.
get into as well. But I just told him straight up. I'm like, I don't know enough about it. So, but I'll let you get onto that because we had somebody ask you a question on
Yeah.
Twitter
Yeah,
about
we've
that.
got a few questions for this episode, and we'll start with this one. That's from at Big Sox Guy, which is also, I believe, he's a Bo Sox injection writer. Somebody I've had a lot of good interactions with, very knowledgeable. Um, and what he said was, it doesn't seem like a lot of info is known just yet, but what are your thoughts on Marcelo's recent injury and how it might impact his development the rest of the season? So, the last few weeks, Marcelo Meyer was in and out of the lineup, more out than in. He got in a couple of games, one at shortstop, I think two at DH. And one of those games, he hit three doubles, but he I believe yesterday was put on the injury list with a wrist injury, and today he was in Boston for tests on that. We haven't really heard, or at least I haven't heard the results of those tests yet. It could be a case of them being overly cautious because he's like 19 years old and one of their top prospects, or maybe it's something more. We'll have to see with the results. He was doing very well in Double A this year. Or sorry, not Double A, in High A, Low A this year. 333 batting average, 507 slugging percentage, 10 doubles, 13 RBIs in 75 at bats. So the bat there isn't a concern. And so as far as development goes, I don't think it's going to slow things up that much. If he was in High A right now and that happened, it might, because the difference between Double A and High A is much more significant than the difference between like regular A and High A. So I think that as long as it's nothing like catastrophic, you could end up seeing him get his last month in High A this year. He's definitely going to be there next year, which is where if you follow like the Nick York course of things, he got brought up in July. Mayer so far is hitting. Maybe it's August if the injury is more severe, but I'm not too concerned with how it's affecting his development at this point, just because it seems, at least at the moment, to be relatively minor, and he's been hitting. What do you think on this, Brad?
So the first I saw of it was last night. There was an Instagram post by Marcelo Meyer saying that he was in Boston. So it drew a flag. Someone had posted it on their Twitter account and said, clearly this means the Red Sox have called up Meyer, jokingly, and said, really hope this has nothing to do with his wrist. And unfortunately, that is exactly what it has to do with. I hope it isn't as serious as like us being over dramatic, like, oh, he's up in Boston, he's on the IL, it's something to do. It's definitely Boston. It's time. It's the organization. They're like, okay, we need to take care of this guy who was our number one draft pick this year, 4th overall, or last year, sorry. And I think he'll be all right. I hope it isn't a serious situation. Like you said, there isn't much for us to really talk about. Chris Hatfield had made the post earlier. He made it about last night, saying that Marcelo Meyer, number 2 in the Sox Prospect 60, has been placed on the Salem IL and is undergoing further testing on his wrist sprain. And I hope, and then Spears said something, and like I said, I hope it's not something where we're going to be over, like, we're just overthinking it, like, remember the time Xander had his wrist issue and he wasn't hitting all that well and whatnot. And then we got Marcelo Meyer, who, he's probably got something similar going on right now. We don't know. I hope it's not major. I hope it's just a minor thing. I hope it's just a 15-day IL, not a 60-day, and then he's back.
The impression that I've gotten is that he had been playing through this through a few weeks, and then they were doing the more tests now. So if he was able to play through it and still hit, I don't think it's going to turn out to be that serious. I think they're just kind of trying to gauge if they need to shut him down for a little bit, figure out what the specific issue is.
I hope that's the case. We know, we got a lot of people that are keeping an eye on him, and he's the number 1 or number 2 prospect according to Sox Prospect. When it comes to our system, I tend to trust what Sox prospects is saying over what the pipeline is saying. It's like, all right, we get it. You want, but I really do hope that it's something minor. I hope it's like you need to shut him down for a week or two, and he comes back and he's fine.
The good news, and this is relative good news, but the good news is that Salem is just chock full of talented infielders there. They've got Edinson Polino is hitting really well. Brainer Bonici is kind of weird numbers, but he's drawing a ton of walks and not really hitting for a lot of power, but he plays shortstop. Blaze Jordan in the infield there, Nico Cavaldas. It's a fun team to be watching, and hopefully Mayer will be right back in with the rest of them in just a couple of weeks. That Salem team's that offense, and oh my gosh, did you see some of the numbers that Greenville has right now, just for their hitters? What Alex Pinellas has been doing?
I saw. So Rob Bradford he's definitely a homer when it comes to Alex Pinellas. I guess he has Pinellas being boots on the ground down in Greenville. But he made a post earlier today saying that when Pinellas gets a hold of one, he doesn't get a cheapie. I've seen Pinellas was getting some stuff done. It's my favorite thing about the prospects, and this doesn't have anything to do with Greenville. This just has to do in general. Is whenever we tweet something about the prospects, people are like, they're not helping us now. And it's like,
it's either they're not helping us now or call them up.
Yeah, oh, he's hitting homers, call him up. He's making great catches, call him up. And Bro's been in Casas is, he's hurt right now. We have to talk about that as well. Where number 1 and number 2 prospects are basically, on the IL right now. But it's just, we have no patience as a fan base, and I'm starting to realize that I've been that way. Dave Hamilton leads the what is it? The league, whatever.
League. Yeah, the High East or whatever it is.
Yeah, the Eastern League or whatever it is. And steals, and I made a post about that, and it was like, oh great, this guy that nobody even knows, when is he gonna help us? Well, why aren't we trading? It's like, God, dude, why are we doing this? Imagine if Rafael Devers was mashing, in Portland, and then all of a sudden we traded him for somebody else. Imagine if we traded him to say, let's just say for shits and giggles, we traded him to the Washington Nationals, and then the Washington Nationals have both Rafael Devers and Juan Soto because we couldn't be patient enough. Imagine that.
Yeah, which to Dave Dombrowski's credit, I mean, he held on to the good ones. He held on to Devers. He held on to Xander. He held on to Casas. So, you hold on to the good prospects, and the ones that aren't as good, you trade, but you build up their value first. That's the thing that I don't think people realize, is that if they do well in the lower minors, it builds up their value. So you don't just pull the trigger the first 2 weeks that they're doing anything. You wait until they've really established themselves. They're a top 100. And then maybe you have 2 or 3 of them. You can turn those into somebody. That's how you get, if you're the Blue Jays, that's how you trade for Matt Chapman and Berrios,
Imagine if the Blue Jays traded the 3 guys, Biggio, Bichette, and Vladdy Jr.
Oh, God,
imagine if they traded those guys.
Manoah.
It would be, yeah. It's like we need to start having some patience when it comes to our farm. And the other thing, like we'll probably talk about this on the actual pod, but it's like this is 3 years. I say 2.5. That's where I'm going with this. But like, let's wait like a couple years. We got like a year until we start making some decent trades.
Yeah. I mean, we still getting Kyle Schwarber for Aldo Ramirez. I mean, he was that was like a legit prospect at the lower levels, but he was a real prospect, and they were able to give him away without not give him away obviously, but they were able to deal him without really having a second thought about it.
Right.
And that's what you need. That's what the farm system is partially for. It is being able to make those trades, and it is being able to develop your own weapons, so you're not depending on guys being available at the right time.
Exactly.
So that actually brings me, though, speaking of patience, to another question here, and that's actually will tie in a little bit with Cassis. So this is from our very own Brandon Brewer at BRNDNBRW. When will Fitzy get called up? And that's a little different than asking when, like a guy at high A is getting called up or something like that. What I've seen recently, and this happened just a couple of days ago, is with Cassis sprained his ankle, wanted to stay in the game. The manager insisted that he leave, and there's been a little bit of swelling. It doesn't seem like it's anything serious, but they're playing the better safe than sorry, which I get. But because of that, we're seeing Ryan Fitzgerald get some time at first base, which he's already, played third, short, second, I think all three outfield positions. So he's really, once he gets pitcher and catcher done, he's going to run the whole gauntlet. But that's really the last piece for him. And I think as soon as there's some kind of an injury on the big league club, he's going to be the guy that gets called up. It would be a little easier if he was right-handed instead of left-handed, but he doesn't, aside from the fact that he strikes out a lot, he's been absolutely manhandling AAA pitching this year. He's he's hitting 293, 357 on base percentage, 593 slugging percentage. That's from 12 doubles and 9 homers. Oh, wait, no, sorry. That was Ceddanne Rafaela's numbers. 7 doubles and 9 homers. Sorry about that. Oh, and 4 triples, too. Let's just throw that in there. He does strike out a lot. In 140 at-bats, he struck out 44 times, so that's obviously not ideal, and they might want to, he's one of these guys that when he comes up, and I think he's on record saying this, he's just trying to see how far he can hit the ball. And sometimes when he hits the ball, it goes really, really far. I like Fitzgerald. I really think that he's a great story. He was not drafted. He was signed out of Indie League ball when he was 23, and he's kind of just worked his way up, doing whatever he's had to in order to have a role on the team. I think that it's going to be when you see somebody get hurt, though. I don't think unless he's hitting 400 or something, it's going to be tough for him to force his way into the lineup. But if you say Alex Verdugo has to spend some time on the IL, you might see him. Well, no, because Duran would get called up first, so it would really probably take
the biggest issue that I see with Fitzy being called up is the fact that he is not on the 40-man roster.
Yeah, 100% agree.
There are other people I think would be called up first. Duran being one of them. You also have Franchi who could play outfield. If Franchi could play first base, he could play all 3 outfield positions. I wouldn't want to see him playing center field. But Duran would get the call first. I don't know.
Well, I mean, at this point, Arauz, I think, really just hasn't looked great at any level this year, and I think he's somebody that if you have to DFA somebody and maybe we can sneak him through, he might be the one that you switch out. Thinking about it, and just thinking out loud, if there's another COVID outbreak and they don't have to add to the 40-man like you saw with John Schreiber getting his opportunity, that could be it. But there isn't a really obvious fit for him right now, and that's sort of what the problem is.
I mean, right now we're having problems getting Arroyo some at bats. So I mean, he's playing outfield with he's platooning with JBJ right now. So with him not being on the 40 man, that puts a damper on things. Like you said, if there was something of a situation with COVID, that might be the first, maybe there's an issue where like Toronto and say Duran's, I don't know his vaccination status or anything, but like maybe that's a route they go. I don't know if that's something they can do, but
Yeah, I'm not certain either on that, but yeah, there are ways that it could happen, and it happens. Like I don't know if anybody expected like Franchi to come up when he did. He wasn't on the 40 man at the
yeah, he
time.
wasn't on the 40 man, but we all knew within the 2 days before he got called up that he was getting called up.
Yeah, I mean it was
Like,
a little bit of a different situation with Shaw.
Yeah, right. Like you knew it was just a thing.
But yeah, so that's with Fitzy. I do think we're gonna get to see him this season. But so I've got one more question. And this is from Webster at wendy.com, spelt out DOT. Any chance we see Groom out of the Red Sox bullpen in 2022? Or he's already on the 40 man.
He is a lefty.
He is a lefty.
We have Diekman, we have Strom, we have Davis. We are missing Taylor. We are missing Hernandez. I don't know. Like, how many lefties? We got 3 lefties. How many righties? We got Sawamura, Schreiber, Barnes, Robles. I don't know. I feel like
Houck.
Oh, and Houck.
Yeah,
Sorry.
technically.
And
Danish.
know. Is he still on the team?
Danish is still on the team. I was surprised to realize that.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Danish outlasted Brazier.
I don't think that's really something to be, like that's a feat.
I mean, if you told me that going into the season, I might have been a little surprised. But yeah, no, it's not the most grandiose of an accomplishment there. So, the thing the issue I have with Groom in the bullpen is that his stuff just doesn't really play that well for it. It's like a starter's. It's not like Garrett Whitlock where he has a starter's arsenal, but he's still pumping like 98 miles an hour past people. Groom doesn't really go higher than like 94 miles an hour, and he has decent control and okay braking stuff, but it's nothing that's going to be overpowering.
Yeah, I don't think that he would be a good choice for, like you said, in the bullpen as well. He's a pitcher. Like not saying that people in the bullpen aren't pitchers, but he pitches to get outs. He doesn't, ground balls, things like that. He'll end up getting into a little bit of trouble here and there, but I don't, like you said, I don't think he's got the arm speed for the bullpen.
Yeah, I feel the same way about this. Isn't like a bias against Groom. I feel the same way about Connor Siebold. I don't think he has the right type of arsenal for being a reliever. Whereas somebody like Bayo with his 100-mile-an-hour fastball, or like Winkowski, plays a little bit better in those short samples where they can really just like up their velocity to like high 90s. That doesn't mean he's not going to get a chance to play on the majors this year. There's a chance he does a spot start or something like that. A lot of it depends on how he pitches at AA. I think we're going to see him at AAA before the end of the year.
Now, a lot of people are talking about these guys, and I mean, like you've got Valdez still. He'll probably get a call up first. I know Eduard Bizardo. He has been called up before. We still got Hernandez. I mean, he's on the injured list right now. He'll probably get called up before some of those guys once he gets back. Yeah.
A lot of talent.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of talent that is down in the farm.
Down on the farm. I do want to highlight, we're almost at the end of our time here, but I do want to highlight a few players just because it's just worth mentioning some of the more impressive performances we've seen so far. And we talked about this on the pod the other day, but Ceddanne Rafaela hit for the cycle last week and is having an absolute monster year for Greenville.
Didn't he hit for like the natural cycle?
It was a natural cycle, single, double, triple, and then homer. And then the next game, it was actually funny. His first at bat, the next game he homered, and then he hit a triple the next at bat.
Yes, I remember
so like,
he was going for the reverse cycle the next game,
which would have been. Has that ever happened? I feel like there's no way that's happened before.
A reverse cycle? Yeah, it actually had, because I looked it up. That's when I realized, wait a minute, there's such thing as a reverse cycle.
Oh no, but I mean like a cycle one day and then the next day a reverse cycle, which would be how cool would that have been? Like he was a double and a single away from it. But he's just tearing the cover off the ball this year. He's 315 batting average, 380 slugging percentage, 12 doubles, 9 homers, 29 RBI, and he stole 11 bases on top of that. So I don't think there's much left for him to prove in high A. I think we're going to see him in double A. I think around when Nick York got brought up last year, so like July, something like that. Another guy who I don't know if he's definitely leading the organization. I don't know if he's leading all of baseball, but just a guy with a really good name for a slugger, Nick Northcutt. Has 15 home runs this year, 646 slugging percentage, and he's also struck out 52 times while walking 7 times. He has more home runs than walks and doubles put together. And he almost has as many homers as he does singles. I think he has like 20 singles to his 15 homers. So there's a lot of power in that bat. I think Alex Spire just had an article about him in the Globe and how his parents are like playing in the orchestra, and there were like some metronome metaphors in there. But it's a lot of raw power for one guy there.
So I looked up so they didn't say what it is in the minors. They do have the major league cycles and whatnot. So the last person to hit for a reverse cycle was actually, this one kind of surprised me because he's from Connecticut, Rajai Davis, back in 2016.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, where in Connecticut is he from? I feel like it's somewhere like
I want to say it's Bloomfield,
something that starts with a B, or like Bridgerton or something like that. Bridgehampton, something like that. Hang on, I gotta look this up now. I love her.
He was born in Norwich.
Okay.
But he played Little League baseball in Willimantic.
Okay, Willimantic was the one that I was thinking of there.
And he graduated from New London. So
okay, so a taste of all of Connecticut for all seasons with Rajai.
All in the like southern part of Connecticut, about an hour away from where I am. But yeah, he hit the last reverse cycle, and the last person to hit for the natural cycle was Gary Matthews Jr. for the Rangers back in 2006.
Wow, that was a while ago. I've almost forgotten Gary Matthews Jr. existed or exists, but yeah, one last performance I want to highlight for this, just for recently. Now, Brandon Walter was the pitcher of the month for.
He's a psycho.
He is. He got one really bad outing. That's kind of like I think he gave up like 7 runs in like 3 innings or something like that. Oof. But he still hit right now 43 innings, 60 strikeouts to 3 walks. That's not, it's for every time he walks somebody, he strikes out 20 people. That is bonkers. That is just good control right now. That's a guy, because he's almost 26. He's someone that I think has a shot at getting called up this season to help the pen out. He's got also good control. Nasty slider.
I find it funny because, like, I had no idea who Walters was until Cole ended up telling me, when he was on.
I remember that. He said that his slider is the nastiest pitch he's ever seen.
That's crazy.
He's caught Eovaldi before, Cole, by the way. So
right, I remember him saying that.
That is
Yeah.
praise for a guy right there. Yeah, he was sort
Walters,
of a oh, sorry.
Walters, he legitimately, like, I'm just gonna pull up. I'm gonna show you right now his picture. Like his little smirk that he has on his like minor league picture. He even
Yeah,
looks like a psycho.
he's a little scary looking. And you know what? You want that in a relief pitcher. You want a guy that, like Nails, except for better than the name there. You want him to just be just shoving it down your throat there. You want him to be somebody that wow, if I do something wrong, he might kill me.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that we're at about the hour mark now. So that's going to about do it for us today. Do you have anything you want to say before we finish here, Brad?
I'm just, I'm really excited with the fact that we're doing this. We're talking about the farm. Um, it's a learning thing for me, especially. And it's awesome to like have a view on something outside of like the actual, the Boston Red Sox. Learning more. 2 years ago, I could give two shits about, who was down on the farm. Like back in 2019, I don't know who the hell Cassis was. In 2020, I barely knew who he was. But like now it's like there's so many different like people to keep an eye on, and it's exciting. And I love it. I love it. I really do.
Yeah. It's a whole universe within itself, and there's it's really cool seeing the guys when they get drafted and when they first come into the system and kind of going from there until they make it up to the majors, and we'll be following that for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's like even being able to like meet the guys, Cole, and Sogard, being able to meet those guys, it's like who's to know? Like we had these guys on the podcast, and then what's to say? Like in 2 years, just say like they end up in the majors. Maybe not with the Red Sox, but with another organization, and we reach out to them and it's like, hey, congratulations, blah blah blah, and they're like, hey, thank you for keeping an eye on me and keeping in touch, and I know I'm not in the organization, or like I know like I'm over here or whatever. It's cool to be able to like see these things.
Yeah, it's very human. Like, and I think that in all of this, especially at the big league level, people forget that these are like real people who have things going on outside of
Right.
baseball. Like I remember when we talked to Nick, he had just gotten off like an 8-hour bus ride and sounded exhausted. And like,
I was extremely grateful for the fact that he did do that. And it was like, hey man, you could have just told us like, hey, let's do it another time, and I would have been perfectly fine with that,
Yeah,
But he was like, no.
But yeah, no. So we'll be back with Nick. We'll figure out. It might be in a couple weeks. It might be in a month. We're gonna talk that over and figure it out. I've been enjoying the hell out of this. So
we're gonna be back with Nick.
Oh, did I say Nick? I keep on calling him Nick. I mean Tim. I don't know why. He looks like a guy that I used to work with named Nick.
I was like, wait, what? We're gonna have all right, man. So happy that we were able to do this today. And yeah. I can't wait to do more of these. So
hell yeah, man.
All right.
Peace out, guys.